Vox Machina is unlike any other show that you have ever seen. For those that don't know, Vox Machina is a fantasy Amazon Prime animated show that was based on a Dungeons & Dragons series of campaigns by Critical Role. Very basically, Critical Role was a web series that was sort of a live Dungeons & Dragons campaign that was played out.
Tonight's episode of Critical Role, where a bunch of us nerdy-ass voice actors sit around and play Dungeons & Dragons.
So I'm going to do a super rough breakdown of what is a much more rich and colorful story. These are pretty much the basics, and this is pertinent information because a lot of this is why it's so amazing. A lot of why this show is so incredible that we're getting into is partially because of how it's come to be. Critical Role's founders were a group of LA voice actors and friends who started hanging out together and playing Dungeons & Dragons back in 2012. After a few years of live streaming these campaigns, they got a Kickstarter going and crowdfunded the animated show we're talking about today, Vox Machina. Amazon then came in and ordered 2 seasons from the series at that time. Now I will say I'm not a critter, which is the colloquium for the fan base, which also is just so adorable. I love that. Critter. That is a great name for a fan base. There are definitely worse ones out there. But with that said, so I'm not as informed about the show and about especially Critical Role as I imagine a lot of people watching this video are. So if you are one of those people who knows a lot, I implore you to go share a lot of your information and maybe things that I skipped over, some interesting stories that you might know about in the comments. And kind critters, while you're down there, this sounds awful without any of the music that I'm editing in. And as I'm sure everyone knows, Season 2, the first 3 episodes of Season 2 have been released, and the rest of Season 2 is coming out soon. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but first, let's talk about why Vox Machina is so incredible and so unique. Point number 1, since we're talking about the fan base, the undying fan base is one of the first things that I would want to point to as evidence of why this is already such an amazing show. It feels even weird to say that this show is based on an IP. It doesn't feel like Mickey Mouse is getting a spin-off, you know what I mean? This definitely is the creators with their own project, doing their own thing with it, funded by the fans, and as far as I know, it doesn't seem like Amazon has had very many, if any, restrictions on development or creation.
Good dang, these teddies were here.
I suppose that is a good point to point out that if anybody hasn't figured this out and doesn't know this about Vox Machina, it's definitely like an adult animated show. There's swearing and sex and other wonderful deviant things that I tend to very much enjoy out of animated shows. Now granted, popularity is not necessarily an indicator of quality. However, I think it should be noted that in 2019, Critical Role fans actually broke the Kickstarter record for the most funded TV or film project ever, pledging over $5.79 million in under 4 days. That would be a pretty successful Twitch stream. That is insane. The fact that that is the most successful Kickstarter ever, at least at that time, that's mind-blowing to me. But the fandom has consistently showed up in support of this, every iteration of it. I mean, it has a comic series online as well. We covered the first season of Vox Machina. We live reacted the whole first season. No way. He actually used his penis.
And you've been allowed.
The fan base clearly shows up in YouTube comments. The fan base clearly shows up for all of this. I mean, crowdfunding, my god. I've also known some people who are great fans of Critical Role and have followed it for a long time.
Anecdotal evidence is terrible evidence, but in support of many other evidences, it's not fallacious.
The passion from the fan base is only an indicator of the passion of the creators. Matt Mercer, along with all of the other people who are involved with this very collaborative project, which is, again, another reason why it's so good, is that it's so collaborative. You can feel the passion behind it in the animation, and I believe a lot, if not all, of the voice actors and actresses are the same people who did the campaigns, too. The voice acting is incredible, and the characters do not act like this was their first read doing these characters one bit.
All it takes is a little finesse. Amateurs.
That was my toothpick.
I can totally believe that these people have been acting as these characters for a while because they come out with such an amazingly complex and realistic character dynamic. I really believe all of the characters as I see them. Our main cast of characters consists of Vex, I think I'm just gonna, like, write the names and pronounce them as I know them from hearing them on the show. Vex, Percy, Pike, Vax. My god, this is Vox Machina, and we have Vex and Vax. Kylith, Scanlan, and Grog. Describing this show might sound like how people kind of describe their favorite anime. So it's a reincarnated shamanic puddle, okay? Trying to be the supreme magic-y magic lord of all magic. But in theory, what it really means is to unite the world so that everyone can live in harmony. Okay. I know it sounds a little silly, but it's actually really, really, really good. It's like the chemistry between Galgarian, the Greek gizzard getter, and his charming companion, Vilwhipper, the beef-free snatcher. Yeah, I mean, okay. You will f***ing cry! Essentially, it's a Dungeons & Dragons fantasy story, and you can really do a lot with them. I don't know what all of the campaigns are. There are apparently a lot of different plot lines that exist in Critical Role. The story in Season 1 takes place mostly with the Briarwoods and their plotline with Percy and them kind of holding his home hostage. I'm going to try to keep this very spoiler-free, because I'm hoping that a lot of people who watch this video haven't seen Vox Machina and are going to as a result of it. Parental discretion is advised, or whatever. Now, to those who maybe don't know all that much about Dungeons & Dragons and haven't heard about this, it might seem like a very simple fantasy thing that just has a very undying fan base. There are certainly other fairly simple fantasy things in existence that have undying fan bases. I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm only editing images in. So let me take your attention away from it as a fantasy show and put your attention on it as a game show. There maybe are some okay video game adaptations like the Cuphead show, but in terms of games in general, I'd even say this is maybe easily the best fictional board game adaptation of all time. We could extend that to other games. There's certainly an argument for it. And part of that is because of the game that it's based on. Dungeons & Dragons has the dice roll that the plotline, at least to somebody like me who's only vaguely familiar with how it works, really feels like it can go anywhere. I can have a character die at any moment as far as I know. Any number of things can happen. Maybe doors will actually, for some reason, like, stop you in your path.
That'd be weird, right?
You really don't know what's going to happen, and it makes the show so much fun because it's so much harder to fall into any narrative tropes that I get so tired of seeing. It doesn't feel like we're rehashing any IPs. It doesn't feel like stories I've been told before. It doesn't feel like comedy or action I've been told before because it was unfolding live and it was done in such a creative way. And granted, it's been edited and it has been cultivated in narrative elements, I'm sure. They're making a show out of it, so, you know, it's gonna be, I imagine, a little bit more refined. Again, critters, let me know if I'm speaking out of turn. Mostly experiencing this as a fan of animation and a fan of, like, film and art in that medium, and it's really blowing my mind in that regard. If we're going strictly in the land of board games, there's really not even great competition, right? No, okay, it's better than other board game fiction. Big deal, right? And this is when I just want to talk about the general artistic brilliance and how I'm anticipating that Season 2 is only going to grow. At the time of recording this, I have not yet seen the new season. I've only read a little bit about what is to come, so I don't know all that much about it. Critical Role's CEO said in an interview about the upcoming Season 2, Critical Role's CEO said that the addition of dragons in Season 2 presented a much heavier technical burden on their animation studio Titmouse compared with the Season 1 budget. In some scenes, the dragons required fewer characters in any given frame to reduce processing crunch on the animators. Titmouse put together a sound-up GG team that really upgraded the ability to show these dragons in a way that they aren't just hulking beasts. They're intelligent, they have personas, they deliver really, really good dialogue. This is really exciting to me. I was already pretty impressed with Season 1 and the CGI and seeing the dragon and seeing how it was interacting with the characters, and I was already very excited about what we were seeing. And other interviews that I've watched on YouTube have also shown the creators pretty much being very confident that we are getting a huge step up in intensity and a huge step up in the character flavor, I'm gonna say, in what is to come. Season 1 was already incredible for all of these reasons that I was mentioning, Again, the animation is extremely creative. The way that they're blending CGI and hand-drawn is very interesting. I'm not an expert enough on animation to really comment on exactly the technical brilliance of what's going on. I wish I knew a little bit more about it to say. But from an amateur perspective, it looks really dope. And if it's gonna get better, I'm really stoked to see that. I like the comment about that they're intelligent and have personas, because it's not just about the animation being better and making a cooler looking dragon. It's about making a more personable dragon and making a character. That's just so cool to me. It's like, okay, this is not just a monster. We're gonna get some character out of it, and it shows so much thought and intellect that's going into the show. And I imagine a lot of that comes from how dragons are depicted in Dungeons & Dragons, and they do actually want to create something that does give it more of a intelligent quality. Again, I'm basing a lot of this on what I've read from you, the amazing commenters. I'm basing a lot of this on what my basic understanding of playing Dungeons & Dragons a couple of times. And if you're super passionate about this, I want to hear about it in the comments. And if anybody is coming to this video and is new and has no idea what any of this that I'm talking about is Dungeons & Dragons or Vox Machina, go look at the hype and check out how much people love this. Check out how just simply good it is. For those of you who I'm sure are about to start commenting about the live reactions, Alec and I do have plans to cover Vox Machina in the very near future. The format of how we're going to do them and whether we're going to cover the entire season the way that we've done it in the past is in the air right now, but let us know in the comments what you're interested in. For those of you who are wondering where my brother is, he's usually in these videos. He and I obviously do the show together. He's a little bit more busy with life and family things, so I'm going to do a couple more solo videos here and there, especially for little time-sensitive things. Maybe some creative editorials here and there. Let me know what kind of topic videos you want to see me do in the comments as well. I want to maybe cover some other shows in a format like this and talk about why I think that they're really brilliant and go into some details. Let me know what other shows you might want to see me cover in a format like this. Some of my favorite shows include Adventure Time, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and a bunch of silly anime like That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, things like that are really good. I actually really do recommend you go watch That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. I made some jokes.
But I'm actually serious. It is a good show!
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Vox Machina Season 2. Super hyped for it. I think I've done enough takes. Bye. The characters are so developed, like the chemistry between Galarian the Greek Gizzard and... the chemistry between Galgarian the... This is so hard to read. The chemistry between Galgarian the Greek Gizzard Getter and his charming companion, the Whipper... I almost made it.